Hello viewers, 4DIYers here, back with another video for everyone. In this particular video here, I'll be showing you how to set up your amp for your speakers by ear. I'll have a full upgrade video for this project in the upcoming weeks, but you can see a brief peek of how the new setup looks. This will be done by ear without any alternative equipment other than some basic tools. Having an amplifier properly set up will maximize your sound quality and ensure you're not causing any damage to your speakers. Here I have my amp hidden under the driver's side knee panel on my Dodge Ram. First is accessing the amp for settings. You'll see various switches and dials on the side. This may vary between models. This one here is a 4-channel amp, meaning it's powering both the front and rear speakers. Therefore it has individual controls for the front and rear. This is needed when running different types of speakers. My front speakers are 6 by 9 inch and my rear speakers are 6.5 inch. For adjusting the amp, you'll most likely need a small standard screwdriver in order to adjust the switches. I'd recommend this precision screwdriver set from OEM Tools, model number 22560 from Mobile Distributor Supply. A link to this will be included in the video description. Included in the set is 4 standard tips and 2 Phillips tips. Easy to keep clean acetate handles, chrome vanadium tips. This is a must-have for everyone's toolbox. With the amp out, disconnect the RCA cables. I have red tape on the one pair of RCA cables to determine which is the front and rear. First is adjusting the filters. Considering we're using mid to high range speakers, these will need to be set to HPF or high pass filter for both the front and rear. Off means all frequencies can be played through the speakers, which can potentially cause damage or distortion. LPF or low pass filter is used for subwoofers. When your frequency filter is set, it won't play frequencies above that set value. When HPF is selected and your frequency is set to a certain value, it won't play frequencies below that value. LPF is intended for bass. If you go from off to HPF, you'll notice a reduction in bass. For filter frequency, this goes to the highest setting so we don't play too low frequencies. Input sensitivity, this is also known as gain, adjusts the input stage. You'll need a balance between the high and low. Too high will cause distortion, and too low will not allow your system to reach its maximum performance. I'll show you what the distortion sounds like in a moment. Turn both the front and rear input settings to the lowest value. All of these settings are intended as a start bass, so no damage is caused during the setup process. It doesn't matter which pair of speakers you start with first, just unplug the one channel to isolate the one type of speaker, as each will have a slightly different setting due to their designs. This can also be done on the head unit by setting the fade, but I find this easier. I have the door open, and this activates the door chime when the key is in the ignition. This may distract your sound test. For many vehicles, the door switch is built into the latch, so a screwdriver can be used. Close the latch. Just make sure you remember to pull the door handle to open the latch before closing the door. First is determining what 75% of your max sound is. My head unit's maximum sound is 35, so 75% of this would be 26. This is needed to set the input sensitivity or gain. You can start out with some music that you typically listen to, then adjust your head unit settings. This would be everything from the equalizer, treble, bass, loudness, bass boost, etc. It's important to do this first. If you do this after, you may cause distortion or damage to your speakers. Some people do recommend music to set up the amp, but I do find it's tough listening to the multiple tones. The easiest way I've found is to use a 40 Hz sound clip. I found a free download through Google. An MP3 format was the only version I could get working on my head unit. It was loaded onto a USB drive and then played on repeat. Make sure your volume is at 75% and now set the amp. Using a small standard screwdriver, slowly turn up the gain. The hum will slowly increase. Eventually it'll come to a point where the tone completely changes. This is the most noticeable when your amp is set to play a higher frequency. Once you hear that tone change, slightly back off the gain so you do have a clean hum. As the bass comes back, it can be harder to hear. Then is adjusting the frequency. Mid-range speakers, you'll be looking at the range of 75 to 100 Hz, but this can vary depending on the music you listen to, along with the quality of speakers. This is something which will be readjusted after when I play music, and not something which I'll show in the video as I don't want to get any copyright claims. You can also see as I turn the Hertz range to a lower value, it's harder to sense the gain distortion. Turn off the head unit. Unplug the RCA cables for one pair and then reconnect the other. Do the same for the opposite speakers. This will have a slightly different setting. Start out with a low gain first and slowly work your way up. I'll provide another example with the speaker distortion so you can hear a clear difference. That time it'll be without dialogue. It's important to set up the amp properly. This shouldn't be done at the head unit. If there is a power loss which resets the settings, you can risk damaging your speakers. On the amp, these are fixed settings. As you hear that distortion, back off the gain slightly so you hear that clear 40 Hz hum. When done, you can turn the radio off and then plug in both RCA cables. Now for that sound clip between the proper 40 Hz sound and when it distorts. Once those settings are done, your amp may come with clear tape covers to close up the adjustment holes. This is to keep any dust out and prevent the settings from being adjusted. Now I can put the amp back into place. As some tips with troubleshooting. With the fixed settings, when I was testing everything out, I was experiencing a hum in the speakers without any music playing, and it didn't change as I adjusted the volume knob. Turning the gain down did solve this problem for me. Other issues which can cause a hum is poor amp quality, a bad ground, poor connection, poor quality or bad RCA cables, or running power wires parallel with audio wires. New videos released every week on my channel. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. It's a huge help to me, and leave a comment below if you found this tutorial helpful. If you're not a subscriber, be sure to also hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching.